Willie Johnson III.
All right, thank you. Calling case number 230-566-3801, People of the State of Michigan versus Willie Johnson III. Counsel.
Jennifer Douglas for the people, P72748.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Anna Roberts, P76414, appearing on behalf of Mr. Johnson. He's been advised of his rights will stand mute. We ask the court to enter a plea of not guilty on his behalf.
Thank you, counsel. The court notes formal reading has been waived and enters a not guilty plea on your client's behalf. In terms of bond, looks like this is a non-assaultive allegation. I'll hear arguments.
Yes, Your Honor. While the charge is non-assaultive on this case, the investigator's report suggests that the gun found in this case is suspected of being used in a homicide case. Your Honor, the investigator's report indicates that there was the shooting death as a driver of a U-Haul, that there was a green light video from about 2 blocks away from the where this happened, and that various vehicles as described in the investigator's report were seen in the video. That investigation led them to the location where the defendant and his girlfriend live. That at the location there was a vehicle that matched what was seen in the green light video, and that was seen by 2 of the witnesses who eyewitness to the homicide. That officers observed Mr. Johnson go to his vehicle, which is a black vehicle, which is the one that was in the video, that he appeared to do something at the passenger side of his vehicle, go back to the house, and he and his girlfriend came out. His girlfriend got into the vehicle that was seen in the green light video. He got in the black video. The vehicles were pulled over. A gun was then found at the passenger side of his vehicle. He indicated that he bought that gun, that nobody else had access to it.
Are there charges forthcoming with respect to a homicide?
Your Honor, I don't know if it's going to be charged or not, but it appears that it's still under investigation. I don't have it. It doesn't look as if the forensic analysis of the firearms completes yet.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
And so when that was the statement that the defendant provided, his girlfriend stated that she was actually there at the scene, and gave 3 different versions of what happened when she was by a U-Haul driver. And so, Your Honor, for this one, although it is a CCW, these things are considering possible risks to the public, we are asking for some sort of cash bond with a tether. If he makes it, is able to make that bond for the safety of the public.
Okay, thank you. All right, counsel.
Your Honor, in response to that, what we do have before the court is a signed complaint by a magistrate to 1 charge of carrying a concealed weapon. That is the charge before the court. And I do understand that the people are alluding to additional information in investigator's report, but that's not what's been charged. That's not what's been authorized by the prosecutor's office. That's not what's been authorized by the magistrate. And so I think it's most appropriate that the court look at what's before the court as to the charge. As to the charge of carrying a concealed weapon from April 25th, 2023, to speculate at this point, I don't think it's proper for this court to do. I ask the court to treat it as the court would treat any other CCW case. I'd like to bring to the court's attention that Mr. Johnson is 42 years old. That it's my understanding he's not currently working. He's looking for work. His unemployment just ended. So we're asking that the court take that into consideration, as well as medical conditions, which he does take medicine twice a day for, and give him a personal bond in this case.
Okay, thank you. One moment, please.
Murray, leave me Charlie, leave me Charlie.
I mean, so the way this investigator's report reads, a person is found, a driver of a U-Haul truck is found shot in the head. He's deceased, or she's deceased, the driver. 2 cars are seen right next to the U-Haul truck. One is pulled over at a later time, a red Yukon. That person says, yeah, I was riding behind the U-Haul, and then a blue car came around me and went forward past it. Somehow it says a license plate is gotten, but I don't know how. Analyst Nadia Dixon obtained intel of a possible license plate involving a vehicle that fit the description of the blue car. When they ran that, they end up with this address on Sussex. When they get to Sussex, they find this defendant and his girlfriend, or at some point they live, they get to them. The girlfriend says, I was there. I was in the blue car. I was the only one driving the blue car. I pulled past the U-Haul and said something to him. She changes her story several times. But she's very consistent that she was in the car alone. He says he went to that location and they both left in separate vehicles, that he was never in that blue car, that she says she was in alone. He's got a gun in his car. Apparently like 75% of the people driving around here, apparently it feels like sometimes. But there's nothing to match that gun in this investigator's report to anything that is having to do with this homicide. So far, all we have in front of me is, hey, there's a blue car. Maybe this license plate comes from somewhere, doesn't tell me where. There's a blue car with this license plate. It's found at this house. And here's girlfriend saying, I was the only one driving the car in that area that day. I saw the U-Haul driver. I pulled up next to him. I shouted at him. Then she changes her story 2 or 3 times. But she says she was in that car alone. And he says he was never in that car. We don't have any green light video, anything else placing him in that vehicle. He's got a gun. Okay. That's why we have a CCW charge. But there's nothing in this investigator's report that links that gun, any ballistics, anything else that links that gun to any kind of homicide. I mean, really, I think we're teetering when we even consider charged but unconvicted conduct. And here, I don't even have a charge. So if the prosecutor's office doesn't feel like there's sufficient evidence yet to present a charge, I don't think I ought to be considering it in setting his bond. What's his work situation?
Your Honor, his unemployment just ended. He's looking for work at this time.
Now, on the chance that there is something else going on here that might encourage flight, that might indicate dangerousness, because we do know the car was apparently in the area because the girlfriend places the car in the area. I will put him on a home confinement tether, but this is going to be $100,000 personal bond. GPS tether with full home confinement. Next court dates. May 5th for the probable cause conference in front of Judge Robbins, and May 12th for preliminary examination in front of Judge Sabree. He's not to purchase or possess any firearms or other, Mr. Johnson, you're not to purchase or possess any firearms or other dangerous weapons during the course of this bond. Before being released from the jail, you will have to be fitted with the GPS tether. That GPS tether will entail full home confinement. Are there any medical issues that I need to be aware of?
Yes, he actually requires medication twice a day. I'm sorry, two medications a day, and he's not been receiving.
Right, DDC, please mark this file medical. Please make a note that Mr. Johnson states he has not been receiving the medication that he is supposed to receive twice per day.
Copy that, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right, good morning. Are you the Quavius Denson?
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. So Mr. Denson, you've been charged with several offenses. You have a misdemeanor window tint violation. That bond is $500. You have a misdemeanor driving while unlicensed. That bond is $1,000. You have a felony possession of marijuana with intent. I've set that bond at $10,000, as well as a felony possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. I've set that bond at $15,000. Your total bond between all the offenses is $21,500. Do you understand the charges that are pending against you as well as the bond amount?
Yeah,
Okay, so your next court date is scheduled for May 22nd, 2023. That's your preliminary hearing date. There'll be a hearing to determine whether or not there's enough evidence to keep these charges against you. If you bond out before May 22nd, you won't have to come back to court because by you bonding out, it automatically waives that court date. But if you're still here, we're going to have a hearing by Zoom video conference with the state present, any witnesses, and with your counsel present. So I am appointing an attorney to represent you based on your application. Do you understand everything I've mentioned, Mr. Denson?
yes, ma'am.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
Okay, sir, you may be excused.
Okay. 23-056-542, State of Michigan versus Dantes Slaughter.
Again, Steve Benson for the people.
Driver Rock P 83665 on behalf of Mr. Dantes Slaughter. Mr. Slaughter, please advise the right.
Court will enter a not guilty plea on your client's behalf. That's the bond.
Thank you, Judge. Apparently on 419.3, there was a shot spot alert. The police were dispatched immediately to the area. Upon arriving, they observed a gray vehicle with the trunk open, no plates. The vehicle was stopped. The driver, the driver was asked by police information. He ended up telling the police to look in a bag that held his valid driver's license. Apparently, the bag was located by the center council. In the bag, the police did find the license, but they also found a loaded magazine. Subsequent to that, Your Honor, the police ended up doing a search and they found 2 firearms in the vehicle that the defendant was occupying. Your Honor, I do note the fact that the defendant did have a valid driver's license, and the vehicle that he was in apparently was registered to a family member that was located at the address he's claiming that he was living in. There are reservations here and insecurities by the people, Your Honor. First of which is there were 2 guns that were found in the search. One was loaded, one was unloaded. Initially, we found a loaded magazine. Now, going one step further with this, Your Honor, apparently defendant was just put on probation out of the 3rd Circuit under a provision of HIDA. Now, his probation was supposed to last, or is lasting through 2026. However, the charges under HIDA that the defendant was being charged with had to do with assault with intent to murder, carrying concealed weapons, and assault, bodily harm, less than murder, and strangulation. So with that being said, Your Honor, on top of the fact that he was just put on probation under HIDA January 4th of 2023, now we have him roughly 3.5 months later being found by police to be carrying concealed weapons, which he was just charged with. And these weapons, one of which was loaded, and there was an additional magazine that was live. For that reason, Your Honor, the people are going to be asking for a $10,000, 10% cash bond. Now, if the people would ask, Your Honor, if the court is so inclined to apply that bond, we would be asking for a GPS tether just to keep defendants' whereabouts in the know.
Thank you.
Your Honor, with regard to bond, I would advise Mr. Slaughter is 24 years old, Judge. She indicates that he has a stable residence here in the community. With his primary fiance, he indicates he does have control as well. Judge, the court, they have a prior, we believe that it was applied to a GPA under HIDA. I do believe that he was given the opportunity of probation, unaware of any other violations. I know that with regard to this case, Judge, it looks like it's not assaulted. It looks like he's fully compliant with all of these officers' requests. I think that both in society, there's no previous history. I didn't hear the court rating him on the traffic matters. So I'd ask the court to consider personal violence as an event. It doesn't appear there's any charges of CCW case. I don't see any company out with firearms or things of that nature.
So, the other case that he pled to, it started out as an AWIM.
I don't know that, but that is the people's representation.
Okay, Your Honor, it did start out as an AWIM. We have multiple charges that are found. What was ultimately pled to, I don't think the defense has, told this court with certainty that it was the great bodily harm that.
That's our understanding.
Okay, that's the defendant's understanding, but what the people are speaking to are the charges that were against the defendant at that time. The case lasted approximately a substantial amount of time over the course of almost 2 years, Your Honor, where there was the plea and he did get put on the probation. But regardless, even the lowest charge that the defendant had in that matter was carrying it concealed. The thing that's disturbing to the people is subsequent to getting a pass in that matter and getting put on probation, we find the defendant in the same place, now with a loaded gun. And I didn't hear defense counsel tell this court that the defendant at the time of stop volunteered to the police officer telling him that he was carrying weapons. I don't believe that happened in the stop. The police officers actually had to search the vehicle to find these weapons. Disturbing nonetheless to the people, Your Honor, and that's why we would be asking for the cash bond, and his bond was posted to have that GPS.
Is your client working?
Judge, he is DoorDash in the logistics part of the soldiers.
Court's concerned that defendant apparently was placed on HIDA probation just a few months ago, and now found apparently with multiple guns in the car. It just, I don't know, it's baffling to me. Well, I will let whatever judge he's in front of across the street deal with that. As to this case, sir, you are not to possess a firearm or any other dangerous weapon. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
You will be on a GPS tether on house arrest. If you leave your house, you're going back to jail. Is that clear?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Court will set bond at $10,000 personal. Next court date will be April 28th, probable cause conference. May the 5th, preliminary exam, both in front of, I'm sorry, no, that's not right. April 28th, probable cause conference in front of Judge Robbins. May the 5th, preliminary exam in front of Judge Jefferson, both here in 36th District Court. Thank you, sir. You can step aside.
Thank you.
Byron Russo. All right, good morning, Mr. Russo. You've been charged with a misdemeanor, possession of marijuana less than an ounce. That bond is $1,000. You've been charged with a misdemeanor obstruction of an officer. That bond is $1,500. You've also been charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. I've set that bond at $10,000. So your total bond is $12,500. You understand your charges and your bond, sir?
Yes.
Okay, your next court date is scheduled for May 3rd, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference.
You
If you bond out,
May 3rd?
what's that?
May 3rd?
May 3rd. May 3rd is your next court date. If you're still incarcerated, you'll be brought up and there'll be a hearing to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause to keep you incarcerated. If you bond out prior to then, you don't have to come back to court. You'll receive a new court date in the mail. And I'm appointing an attorney to represent you, Mr. Russo. You have any questions regarding the information I just gave you?
So you said 12,500 for the total bond, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Name please in the white t-shirt.
Marcellus Bacon, how you doing?
Okay, how are you, Mr. Bacon? I'm good, thank you. All right, this is case number 230-566-4001, People of the State of Michigan versus Marcellus Bacon. Counsel.
Thanks. Good afternoon, Judge Steve Denson for the people.
Angela Roberts, appearing on behalf of Mr. Bacon, Your Honor, to advise his rights will stand due to the expert that he is not guilty of the act.
Thank you, counsel. The court notes formal reading has been waived. Enters a not guilty plea on your client's behalf, and I'll hear arguments as to bond.
Thanks, Judge. What people are going to do here is just as a result of the investigators' report, including multiple agencies, descriptions of streets that weren't accurate, and alleged allegations needed to be corroborated through camera footage. I hope this court doesn't mind if I do a brief recitation of facts.
Okay.
To get it clearly down, accurately down. So on April 26th, here, the date of the incident, complainants were traveling westbound on Gratiot in a left lane. Defendant allegedly was traveling at that time south on Addison Street, which was first believed to be Wyoming and then Cecile. Ultimately, it was corroborated to be Addison Street. Now, defendant was going south on Addison, but turned into the westbound lane in Gratiot, the same lane of travel where the complainants were traveling. The defendant then proceeded to allegedly cut off the complainants on Gratiot Road. It's alleged that the defendant had ran a red light at Addison in Gratiot, and that's how he ended up ultimately cutting off the defendant. The complainant. Thereafter, the complainant's vehicle and the defendant's vehicle came to a stop at a red light, wherein the complainant, admittedly by the complainant one, yelled to the defendant, "Watch where the fuck you're going." To which the defendant, with his window down, fired his gun into the complainant's vehicle, where the bullets entered the passenger rear driver window, which was first assumed to be the, the front passenger window, but corroborated by green light video footage. It was the passenger's driver window. That bullet went through that window and through the driver's side window.
Through the passenger's driver window and the driver's driver window. So not the rear seats, the front seats.
The front seats,
okay,
correct. And we have green light surveillance that captured the event. It also captured the shattering smoke and glass of the complainant's vehicle. So, Your Honor, the police were notified of the incident shortly after the gunshot. And before I even get there, ultimately after the defendant allegedly did this, he ended up fleeing the scene. But subsequent to that, the police were notified of the incident by the complainants. More so, there were also fire and rescue from Dearborn, a fire rescue unit from Dearborn who had observed the defendant vehicle shortly after the shots were fired. So subsequent to all of that, the police were able to track down the defendant only a short time after the incident, as the vehicle was parked in an unoccupied area by a trucking company, reasonably, close to the vicinity of the incident. Thereafter, police made contact with the defendant, who at that time claimed he was, his vehicle was parked at the trucking company, and he was at the trucking company the entire day. Now, at that time, while the police were getting these statements from the defendant, there was an employee at the trucking company who had told the police officer subsequent to the defendant's statement that the defendant had just arrived and everything that he was saying was untrue. So the police, based on all of the testimony, they ended up arresting the defendant. They searched the defendant. They searched his vehicle. In the vehicle, they recovered a .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun. From defendant's person, apparently a casing from a bullet that matched the gun that the police officers found in his car fell out of the defendant's pocket, and the police were able to match that to the gun.
The casing in his own vehicle matched his gun?
No, a casing on his person, Your Honor, that fell out of his pocket while he was being detained.
Yes.
Matched the gun that he had in his vehicle.
Okay, so he had a casing on him that matched his own gun?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. The gun also, Your Honor, at the time the police found it, the gun was loaded with an additional live round in the chamber. Your Honor, I think one of the most compelling facts here, unfortunately, was the entire incident was captured on green light video. Moreover, there was another vehicle on the roadway that ended up getting hit by defendant's fired bullet that damaged that vehicle's driver mirror. So, Your Honor, just to get to where we're at with this defendant, this incident occurred in the middle of the day. I think we're talking about 4 o'clock in the afternoon in a busy area, firing at a car with occupants inside, wherein the gun was recovered, the spent shell casing matched the gun that the defendant had in his vehicle, and all the while, this was being recorded, captured on the green light video. So, Your Honor, with all that being said, with the counts that we have involved, with the assault with intent to do great bodily harm, with other felonies, I think, Your Honor, the people would be very comfortable. They would be asking for cash bond in this matter in the amount of $250,000.
Okay, thank you, counsel. Defense
In
counsel.
response to that, I would ask the court to entertain a personal bond, or if the court's not comfortable, to do a personal bond with a GPS tender and possibly home confinement. I don't think now is the appropriate time to get into the allegations that this is simply arraignment, so I don't think it's appropriate for us to try this case at this time. But Mr. Bacon indicates he's 34 years old, and he indicates to our office that he has no prior criminal conviction. There does not appear to be any prior on the complaint, so that seems to support what Mr. Bacon is indicating, at least as it relates to any felonies likely would be on that complaint. He also indicates that he does not have any pending cases, nor is on any probation or parole at this time. He's a high school graduate, to our knowledge, Your Honor, currently living in Sterling Heights, and a lifelong resident of the state of Michigan. So notwithstanding the allegations, Your Honor, he does have ties, community ties, as well as what appears to be no priors based upon Mr. Bacon's representation, and I don't believe I've heard anything else from the people as it relates to any prior convictions. So I would ask the court to take that all into consideration, and again, possibly consider a GPS tether with home confinement.
All right, thank you. I'm going to take a moment and just familiarize myself with the investigator's report some more. Stand by, please.
Thank you.
All right.
Your Honor, the people apologize to the defense counsel as well as Your Honor. The people aren't trying to litigate this case. All we were trying to do was lay a foundation for the severity of charges.
I appreciate that. I mean, you know, I know there are differing opinions on the importance of the investigator's report. I'm always interested in the investigator's report in terms of objective evidence, things like video, social media messages, postings. I mean, while the narrative certainly could be biased, I'm always interested in what the objective evidence is that's listed.
I think ultimately, Your Honor, the people were concerned with the fact that this was an alleged bullet that the defendant fired that quite honestly could have killed somebody, let alone seriously injured, and it went through the vehicle and allegedly hit another vehicle. So the danger to the public is clear regarding defendant's actions.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, essentially, we have a camera picking up the a car that goes by and pulls up next to this Jeep. That camera capturing the license plate of the vehicle, apparently, and shattering of the windows, smoke, etc. The occupants of the Jeep saying the window was rolled down and suddenly their windows exploded. We've got bullet holes. Then we have this other detail of Mr. Bacon allegedly being come into contact with police at work and saying he'd been there all day, and someone else advising police that that was not true. All of this raising concerns about not just community safety, but also flight risk in terms of avoiding dealing with this and the investigation. I am going to set bond in the amount of $250,000 cash. For that reason, no surety. For that reason, there will be a bond review hearing on Monday, May the 1st, in front of Judge McConico. After that, we've got May 9th for the probable cause conference and May 15th for preliminary examination in front of Judge Giles. These kinds of alleged random acts of deadly kind of violence, not deadly in this case, but hearing that possibility, are of grave concern in terms of community safety. Sir, you are not to purchase or possess any firearms or other dangerous weapons. If you're able to make this bond, you will be subjected to a GPS tether with full home confinement. All right, the court dates, as I said, are going to be in front of Judge Giles, and there is to be no contact or attempted contact with the complainants, meaning no verbal contact, no written contact, no contact through third parties or social media. Any attempted contact would be considered a violation of the conditions of your bond. Counsel client is asking to speak. Would you like to advise him?
Mr. Bacon, I would strongly advise that you do not make any statements at this time because this matter is being recorded and streamed via YouTube. This is the arraignment stage, so I would caution you. I don't believe it's the appropriate time to get into the allegations. If you feel like you have a question regarding your bond, I would encourage you to ask that at this time, but I can't advise you enough not to say anything about these allegations.
As far as the bond, I understand where you guys is coming from. I'm.
Hold
acting
on,
on
sir,
my-
because it sounds like you're getting ready to get into the facts of your case, and that's exactly what your attorney is trying to tell you not to do.
No, I'm asking, I am a CDL holder. I own a semi truck. I'm not a flight risk. I'm asking, can I get a little leniency? Cause I do need to go to work. I have a 12-year-old daughter. And that's about it.
Okay, I thank you for that. You're going, excuse me, you're going to be back in front of another judge for a bond redetermination hearing on May 1st, all right? That judge will take the opportunity to review this again, review your circumstances again, and believe whether or not they believe the bond I've imposed here is appropriate. But for now, I'm going to leave this where it is. All right, thank you.
Quantavis Mack. All right, good morning, Mr. Mack.
Good morning.
You have been charged with 3 misdemeanors and 1 felony. Misdemeanor concealing a motor vehicle ID, that bond is $500. A misdemeanor open container, that bond is $500. Driving without a valid license, that bond is $1,000. And then your felony possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, that bond is $15,000. Your total bond amount between all of the offenses is $17,000. Do you understand your charges and your bond amount?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, your next court date is your preliminary hearing. I've scheduled that for May 3rd, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. by Zoom video conference. If you bond out before that date, you don't have to come back to court. You'll get a new court date in the mail. If you're still incarcerated, you'll be brought up and there will be a hearing to determine whether or not there's sufficient probable cause to keep you incarcerated on those charges. I'm also appointing an attorney to represent you, sir. Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Mack?
No, ma'am.
All right, you may be excused. Best of luck to you.
Stand on the black line. State your full name.
Keith Irby.
Keith Irving.
Irby.
Irby. Thank you, Mr. Irby. Okay, Mr. Irby. All right, you've got some traffic misdemeanors where you miss court dates. When you miss your court dates, the judges assigned to those cases issued warrants and they set bonds. We're going to set the warrants aside today and give you personal bonds on these tickets. You do have the right to remain silent. You are being recorded. Anything you say could be used against you in the future. You also have the right to have an attorney represent you on the tickets. If you can't afford an attorney, one will be provided for you on or before your next court date. So technically misdemeanors for which the maximum possible penalty is up to 93 days in jail and or a $500 fine. All right. Ticket P1103794 alleges August 29th, 2020 on Mansfield Street failed to display a valid operator's license and no insurance. I'm sorry. At Mendota and Grand River, failure to display operator's license and no insurance. Ticket P1125007 alleging October 16th, 2020 at Plymouth and Braille, driving while license suspended, repeat offender, no insurance, improper plates. P1140483 December 3rd, 2020, Keeler and Mendota, suspended license, no insurance. P1154931 April 1st, 2021, West 7 Mile in Hubble, driving while license not valid or with an improper license. P1164477 February 10th, 2021 at eastbound Jefferson and Joseph Compound, drove while license suspended, unregistered vehicle, no insurance. P1183621 May 20th, 2021, Joy Road, Dexter Avenue, driving an unregistered vehicle, no insurance, no license, license suspended. P1244016 alleging September 1, 2021, Joy Road and Faust, failure to display valid operator's license, no proof of insurance. P1298184 alleging at Livernois and Burlingame on January 6, 2022, license not valid, no insurance, driving unregistered vehicle. 15445-739 alleging July 3rd, 2015 at Belton and Artesian, driving, open intoxicants in the vehicle. Then I've got is that a dupe? Nope. 441162, November 29th, 2019, Granville and Belton. No operator's license, unregistered motor vehicle, no insurance. As I said, you've got a personal bond on all of these tickets. You're going to be in front of Judge Archer on May the 26th on all of these. All right. We'll go on to your other case now, which is case number 230-566-3001. People of the state of Michigan versus Keith Irby. Counsel.
Judge Steve Denson for the people.
Driving around P 3665 on behalf of Mr. Keith Irby, may bring his family, you, so he can advise his rights.
Thank you, counsel. The court notes formal reading has been waived. Enters a not guilty plea on your client's behalf, and I will hear arguments as to bond.
Thank you, Judge. This was with one counter weapon carrying concealed. The defendant here was driving his vehicle, and again, it was yesterday, approximately 90 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. He was allegedly changing lanes without signals, and the police initiated their sirens at that point. The defendant was there and observed making erratic movements in the vehicle by, within the time of the police officers turning on their sirens and making the stop. On the stop, the defendant advised the police he did have a firearm when the police asked him if he did. He said he had it in the vehicle, however, it was broken down. Later on, Your Honor, the defendant confessed he had only broken down the firearm, separating a loaded magazine in between that time when the police initiated the sirens and there was a stop. Defendant is not a valid CPL holder, Your Honor. Now, I know this is an assault in this matter, so, you know, the people are inclined to request a personal bond. However, we would be asking for, I did, at least based on my certifying priors, there wasn't any probation violation, but with no objection to the personal bonds, we would be asking for no driving without a valid license, as well as, Your Honor, there being no alcohol consumption whatsoever, as based on the defendant's alleged history.
Was there any drunk driving charge associated with this stop?
There were not, but previously he had been issued citations for open intoxicants.
Yeah, quite frankly, counsel, one of the concerns I had as I read that open intoxicants ticket is it doesn't actually say whether he was the driver or the passenger in that vehicle. Do you have any other knowledge about it?
No, I don't, Your Honor, but just based on the fact that the defendant was going at such a high rate of speed, it didn't have a magazine attached to it at the time, as well as running through all of these lights, the people would just feel more comfortable if the court was so inclined to apply that restriction.
Okay, thank you, counsel.
29 years old, no prior criminal convictions, no penalties on traffic. I would ask the court to consider personal bond, maybe a no firearm prevention. I'd ask the court to reserve any other conditions for the judgment.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the open intoxicants, noting that that ticket is all the way back from 2015. That's almost 10 years ago. I'm not going to impose a no drinking condition here, given that there wasn't any suspicion of drinking or anything at this stage with respect to this charge. It's going to be charged, it's going to be a $1,500 personal bond on this case. The next court date is going to be May 5th for the probable cause conference in front of Judge Robbins. After that, May 12th for preliminary examination in front of Judge Jefferson. But Mr. Irby, you are not to purchase or possess any firearms or other dangerous weapons during the course of this bond. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, good morning. Can you state your name for me, sir?
Morning, my name is James Neely.
Okay, Mr. Neely, you have got 6 different charges. I'll go through each one, tell you the bond amount on each charge, and then I'll give you the grand total at the end. The first charge is a speeding violation. That bond amount's $500. Second charge is driving on a suspended license. That bond amount is $1,500. The third charge is an expired tag. That bond amount is $500. Fourth charge is distracted driving or violating the hands-free driving law. That bond amount's $500. The fifth charge is possession of marijuana less than 1 ounce. That's a misdemeanor. That bond amount is $1,500. And the last charge is a felony offense. That is possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. And that bond amount is $8,000. When we add all of those bond amounts up, your total this morning comes to $12,500. I've scheduled a preliminary hearing for you that will take place on May the 17th at 8:30 in the morning. And that's held over the computer, just like this one. And I've received an application for a court-appointed attorney. Would you like to apply for a public defender?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
May I speak?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right, my felony is over 10 years old. Can you take that into reconsideration?
You have a child that's 10 years old? Is that
No,
what you
I
said?
said my felony is over 10 years old. Can you take
Oh,
that
okay.
into consideration?
No, sir. The charge as far as what we're doing this morning, that bond amount's going to stay the same. Okay.
You said the total bond was what, sir?
$12,500. Okay. Based on your income level that you've listed here in the application, you do not qualify as indigent under Georgia law. And so you do not qualify for an appointed attorney. If you would like an attorney to represent you, you'll have to hire your own attorney. Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, we are recalling your case. Case number 2305-663801, People versus Willie Johnson. This is a single count of carrying concealed weapon. And counsel, I understand this is the one where we heard argument earlier that there may be some suspicion of the firearm used in a homicide. I had ordered a $100,000 personal bond with a GPS tether for house arrest on that information. I understand you have some updated information.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. The gun in the CCW case is not consistent with the homicide bullet, and so, Your Honor, we are no longer asking for that.
All right, thank you. Were you able to hear that, Mr. Johnson? They said the gun that was recovered is not a match to the bullet recovered in the homicide. So $100,000 personal will remain. It's still a personal bond. Just make sure you get to your next court date. All right. Don't purchase or possess any firearms or other illegal weapons. And no GPS tether. We're removing that requirement. All right, then you're not going to have a May 1st court date, or you didn't have one before you get a personal bond. So your court dates will remain the same, okay? Your court dates and judges remain the same. We're just removing the tether requirement, given the statements of the prosecutor's office that they have that new information and no longer feel the need that tether should be imposed here.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Have a good night, sir. Have a good weekend. Okay, thank you.